What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to share a fall preview for Oregon and Washington for hunting, fishing, and waterfowl and everything in the outdoors, and talk about what I've been up to in the month of September, some fishing I've been doing, some really good crabbing reports that I've been hearing, and what you can look forward to in the month of October here in the Pacific Northwest. First, let me start with I hope everybody is safe with all the wildfires we've had here in Washington, Oregon, and in California. Everybody, please stay safe out there and do the right thing and do what you need to do to stay safe, and make sure you stay away from wildfires because they are super damaging and can move very quickly. And as part of the preview and the outlook for hunting, fishing, and waterfowl here in the Pacific Northwest for the fall season, the wildfires have had significant effects on quite a few counties, quite a few hunting areas, quite a few refuges, and quite a few acres and areas where hunting was open and is no longer open, including a lot of roads that have been closed due to wildfire damage. Because there's still wildfires in the area, the month of October, you're going to have to stay safe and make sure that areas are open to hunt, as well as roads are open to get to areas that you might be interested in to go to this fall to get in the outdoors. Make sure that you check the regulations, make sure you check that the roads are open, and please stay safe out there when getting out in the outdoors. So based off winter surveying and reports, deer and elk this season, the populations have thrived in a lot of areas. There's still a few areas on the east side for deer and elk that are of concern from a freeze from a few years ago. But deer on the Coast Range and deer on the east side of Oregon, numbers are up. And for a lot of us, the bag regulations have changed. So you only need a spiked deer instead of a deer with a fork on one side. So if you're going out to chase deer, please remember that the regulations have changed for what you can and can't take for a black-tailed deer here in Oregon, which has given us hunters more access to hunt here in Oregon, as well as the thriving numbers that they've seen on the west side of the state, especially on the coastal ranges. Numbers are looking good. As far as elk numbers on the west side of the state, numbers are pretty flat. We just wrapped up our archery elk season, and rifle season is still to come. The east side of the state, the numbers are so-so or thriving depending on the area that you're in. I've already heard of a lot of reports and some buddies that have already harvested elk on the east side of the state, so numbers are good, but you got to be cognizant of the wildfires in some areas, especially wildlife refuges and spots along rivers that might be closed still due to the wildfires. Overall, elk is still looking positive for the state of Oregon and the state of Washington, and hopefully we don't have a huge freeze this winter and the numbers can continue to grow. So for coho and chinook fishing, I'm going to talk a little bit about the North Coast, as well as the Columbia and the tributary rivers off the Columbia River on both the Washington side and the Oregon side. Numbers have been pretty solid for the most part here in September, and access going into October will remain with the Columbia still open. Now, whether you're below or above Bonneville, check the regulations. You might be able to keep a wild coho above Bonneville and maybe not below, and in some tributaries, you might be able to harvest a wild coho and wild chinook. So pay attention to the regulations. But overall, from a number standpoint, fishing in September was pretty good. Now, there were some days in September where boats had limits within an hour of fishing and off the water by 7:30. And on other days, it was a super struggle fest in areas fishing on the Columbia and the tributaries. We've had a little bit of rain in the forecast, and hopefully a little bit of a wetter October and November can help the tributaries out and push some of those coho and chinook in there. The fishing should be pretty good just based off of the numbers that we've seen going over Bonneville Dam as well as the Willamette Falls. So if you're looking to get out there and chase chinook or chase coho, the reports and the outlooks are pretty good going into this fall time frame in October and November. Coho, especially on the North Coast, is going to pick up with the flood of saltwater coming into the bays every day. As long as the rain isn't too significant, the fishing should be really solid for coho. Chinook numbers continue to be strong, probably for another couple weeks heading into October, and then it'll probably die off, and most people will probably transition straight to coho or start looking towards winter steelhead in the early parts of November. And then for sturgeon fishing, we've been able to get access on the Washington and Oregon fronts for some sturgeon openers on the Columbia River, which has been good. We've been asking for access for more fishing on the Columbia, and so this is a good sign that we've had some openers. Now, the early fishing days for sturgeon in September didn't produce very many fish and the quotas were not met. It was pretty dire straits, if I have to be honest, for sturgeon fishing, which has led to some additional openers later here in the fall season, and there will be a retention day of sturgeon in early October. So if you want to get out there and catch a sturgeon, it's going to be open. But I will say, I'm thankful that we are getting access to more fishing and fisheries and access here in Oregon and Washington. It's a positive sign in the right direction. For waterfowl and upland, the spring surveys weren't able to take place because of COVID, so a lot of regulations and bag numbers from last duck and waterfowl season have transitioned over and are on the same for this year, including the limit of 1 pintail per hunter per day. Now, with the wet spring that we had here in Oregon and Washington, the breeding grounds had plenty of food and plenty of resources when the ducks came back into those breeding areas to hatch young ducklings here in the spring. So optimistically, from a duck hunter standpoint, we're hopeful that the numbers have remained strong. We don't want to see numbers declining, but we want to see them at least staying flat or increasing. Hopefully that'll lead to more liable hunting bags and limits removed from ducks like pintails, going from 1 to 2 for a daily limit. Now, for a crabbing outlook this fall, this is the prime time to start going down and going crabbing. If you haven't checked out some of my other crabbing videos on my channel, I have a playlist on my homepage. Go check that out. And I'll also drop a link below in the description of the video here for my top 10 crabbing tips. So if you're looking for a trip to go out of Washington or Oregon, or crabbing something new that you want to go try, check out that video. Get some tips and get out there and get crabbing, because this is the time of the year to go chase those Dungeness crabs and have a really amazing meal that you've caught and provided for yourself and your family. For other fishing opportunities here in the fall, bass fishing should kind of wind down and be ending at this point, and then high mountain lake trout fishing should be winding down as well. However, there are a few lakes and ponds, bigger ones in Oregon and Washington. They're getting stocked some later trout here in the season that are leftover fish from the hatcheries or that were a part of the fall stocking schedule that was shared out in February across ODFW and WFW. So if you're still looking to chase some trout, there are opportunities this fall. Hopefully with the cooler temperatures that we might get into the later October season, the trout fishing should be pretty decent if that's something that you want to go chase, because the hatcheries have some leftover really big trophy sized trout that they're going to stock in certain lakes or ponds or streams. So if you're able to get on them, could be a really good bite and some really good trout fishing here in the early part of the fall. So for my report for what I've been up to for the month of September, I've been doing a few things. One, I've been chasing elk around the western part of Oregon for my archery elk tag. I was able to get a few times before the smoke and the fire season shut down the area that I was hunting. And unfortunately, I lost 12 days of my season because the area in particular that I hunt on the west side of Oregon was shut down because of smoke and because of the wildfires. So out of a 30-day season, I lost 12 days out of there, which was a huge impact for me trying to get into areas to find elk. However, I was able to try to get a few days out after the smoke and the fires had cleared. We got access to go back in that area and chase some elk. And on the last day, I got really close to an opportunity, but you guys will have to wait till the video gets posted on the channel to see whether I was successful or not successful chasing elk this year. And on a couple other days in September, I did go out bass fishing and trout fishing with Richie. We actually had a pretty decent day chasing bass. However, I heard in the middle part of the month, the bass fishing got really good for the few people that did brave the smoke and go out. I personally did not get out there and chase bass after about, I think, the second day of September, but we've heard the fishing for bass, where they're located and where they're at, has been pretty good as they're spawning and going into those fall transition areas. But by now they should be transitioning off that and the bite should be slowing down dramatically for bass. However, when we did go out trout fishing, we did hear of a few people that caught some. We did not catch any personally, but we hear that there's going to be some places stocked with trout. So if you're giddy to go chase some more trout, there's gonna be opportunities still out there. And then towards the latter half of the month of September, I did get out for a 4-day fishing excursion on the Deschutes River. Last year was the first chance I ever got to go out and fish the Deschutes with my buddy Neil, Mike, and Greg, and this year the Rat Pack was back and we got out there and did some epic fishing all day for a couple days, including going with the guide Forrest Foxworthy about 8 to 9 miles up the Deschutes. Now day 1 was pretty slow, we got 1 as a group. Day 2, we landed 3, hooked 4, and I hooked a giant chinook, which you guys will have to also wait for to see that video coming to the channel soon. And then on the last day, I fished by myself, and it was pretty stinking slow. The Deschutes trip was awesome. We caught some fish, we met some new friends, we got to enjoy the scenic views, and it was really great to actually get out towards the end of September because in the Deschutes area, there was no smoke in the air, and I was able to finally get outside and breathe. And then finally, I had some friends that went out on a pheasant hunt, and they were able to be successful, and it's that time of the year where upland hunting for pheasant, quail, grouse, and even doves is starting to pick up. So there are opportunities out there. People are being successful. There's a lot to do out here in the Northwest for the month of October. We have coho fishing that's open on the coast and tributaries. We have the Columbia River open for chinook retention. Crabbing is starting to pick up and be really, really good. We got upland hunting still going on, so pheasant, quail, grouse. We have big game hunting with deer, rifle hunting, and archery season still open. We have duck season coming up, which I'm super excited about. Goose season will open up across most of the state, and we'll get into that fall trout fishing, as well as there's still places that you can go camp and hike that are still open. Just make sure you check before you go to make sure that the places are open. But there is a lot to do, and the weather forecast is going to be here or there with rain or sunshine. So on those weeks where it's super sunny out, get out there and enjoy the outdoors, because as we know as Oregonians and Washingtonians, when the rain comes, it's here to stay. So if you got warm weather and sunny weather, get out there. There's tons to do. For myself for the month of October, I'm going to focus in on 3 things. 1, hunting for deer. It's something that I really haven't focused on a ton, so stay tuned because I'm going to bring some vlogs and bring some content from the field on my journey this year, rifle hunting for deer for the 2nd time ever. And when October hits, every duck hunter in the state is jonesing to get out there, get the rust off their guns, and shoot some ducks. All I have to say is, stay safe out there, duck hunters. Be positive and get out there and bag some ducks. And then the 3rd thing I'm going to do in the month of October is do a little bit of coastal fishing for coho and chinook, as well as combo coho and crabbing trips where I'll drop the crab pots off and do a little fishing for coho in the tributaries in the bays on the north coast to see if we can't nab some surf and turf dinner all from the sea. So thank you guys for watching my first season outdoor preview here for the fall. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys got some information out of it. So drop a comment below on what you guys plan to do for the fall season here in the Pacific Northwest. And if you're not from the Pacific Northwest, let me know what you guys have planned and lined up for. Whether you're deer hunting, duck hunting, or whatever, just let me know. Love to hear from other areas of the country what you guys are doing this fall. And thank you guys for watching. And as always, everybody, the outdoors is a gift. Share it with others.